The gilded halls of the Kremlin shimmer under soft light as the Russian tricolour drapes the background. The sound of orchestral strings gently fades beneath the rhythmic footsteps of guards in ceremonial dress. President Vladimir Putin walks through the ornate St. George's Hall, a place that has witnessed centuries of coronations, revolutions and rebirths. It is National Unity Day in Russia, a day the Kremlin has come to frame as a moment of reflection on loyalty, tradition and resilience. The president's arrival signals the beginning of an annual state ritual, the national awards ceremony, where citizens, clergy and cultural figures are honoured for their contributions to strengthening the unity of the Russian nation. As cameras roll and the orchestra pauses, Putin takes his place before the golden emblem of the Russian Federation. Around him are faces that represent the diverse spiritual and cultural spectrum of Russia Orthodox clergy, Islamic scholars, Jewish leaders and prominent artists. Patriarch Kirill of Moscow and all Russia sits in the front row, his white headdress glowing against the red and gold interior. To his right, the chief rabbi of Russia, Berel Lazar, adjusts his black hat, while nearby, Ravil Gay-Nutin, chairman of the Council of Muftis, watches solemnly. For the Kremlin, this event is not merely ceremonial, it is deeply symbolic. It projects an image of religious harmony and ideological unity, one that the Russian leadership has carefully woven into the fabric of its domestic narrative since the mid-2000s. President Putin begins his address, his tone firm but measured, his words deliberate. Russia has many devoted friends, and today, on the occasion of National Unity Day, we are joined by prominent representatives of the intellectual, creative and economic spheres from various countries. His message, at its heart, is both a celebration and a signal, a declaration that Russia still commands global respect and that its partnerships stretch beyond the borders of the West. The hall remains silent except for the occasional click of a photographer's shutter. Putin continues, with his voice echoing softly across the marble columns. We are grateful to all those who consider Russia a reliable partner and are always open to new, mutually beneficial contacts, to the development of multifaceted relationships and mutual enrichment. The words mutual enrichment linger in the air, encapsulating the Kremlin's recent strategy, a pivot toward what it calls a multipolar world, where culture and faith are enlisted alongside diplomacy and trade to reshape global alignments. The president pauses briefly before the ceremonial aide steps forward with a red velvet folder. The first award recipient approaches Patriarch Kirill, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church and a longtime ally of the Kremlin's state narrative. The two men exchange a brief handshake captured by dozens of lenses. The patriarch bows slightly as Putin pins the medal to his chest, a medal signifying not only service to faith, but loyalty to the Russian state. Moments later, the chief rabbi of Russia, Berel Lazar, is honored. His speech reflects gratitude, but also echoes the same message of unity that fills the hall, that despite differences of faith, Russia's diverse communities stand under a single national identity. For Putin, this is the essence of Unity Day, the fusion of religion, heritage and patriotism into one shared vision. Next, the chairman of the Council of Muftis, Ravil Gay-Nutin, steps forward. The applause that follows is respectful, measured. In the Kremlin's narrative, these religious leaders represent the moral core of a nation bound not by ideology, but by shared history and endurance through crisis. Seated among them is Eliseo Bertolazzi, president of the Italian branch of the International Russophile Movement. His inclusion reflects Moscow's growing emphasis on soft power, the global network of supporters who champion Russia's culture and worldview abroad, especially at a time when diplomatic tensions with Europe remain strained. Putin listens intently as Bertolazzi delivers his remarks, praising cultural cooperation and what he calls the enduring friendship between peoples. The moment is emblematic of how Russia seeks to counter isolation by reinforcing narratives of global solidarity rooted in culture and tradition rather than politics alone. As the ceremony progresses, Natalia Solzhenitsyn, The widow of literary icon Alexander Solzhenitsyn and president of his charitable foundation steps onto the stage. She represents the intellectual and moral heritage of Russia, the enduring link between the struggles of the past and the vision of the future. Putin greets her with quiet respect. For a moment, the atmosphere softens. The applause that follows carries a tone of genuine reverence. Nearby, Abbess Gavrila and Archpriest Andrei Lemeshonok, both known for their social and charitable work, receive their honours. They have been active in supporting communities displaced by conflict, in restoring monasteries, and in maintaining the moral threads that, in the Kremlin's narrative, hold the nation together amid global uncertainty. Then comes Grand Mufti Talgat Tadhuddin, another veteran figure in Russian interfaith relations. His white robe and green turban stand out vividly in the sea of dark suits. As he speaks, he thanks the president for recognizing the spiritual diversity that defines Russia's identity, a statement that aligns seamlessly with the state's narrative of unity through diversity. The camera pans across the audience, a mosaic of military officers, artists, educators, and civic leaders. Each face tells a story of endurance through sanctions, of adaptation through conflict, of identity reaffirmed through ceremony. The awards may be symbolic, but their message is strategic. Over the past 2 years, as Russia's foreign relations have shifted dramatically, the Kremlin has doubled down on domestic cohesion. National Unity Day has taken on added weight, evolving from a cultural celebration into an instrument of state messaging, one that reinforces solidarity and deflects isolation. Putin's words, though few, are calibrated to resonate across this broader landscape. When he speaks of devoted friends, he is invoking not just Russia's internal unity, but also its alliances abroad, from Asian partners to Middle Eastern and African states that have maintained ties despite Western sanctions. Inside the hall, the applause swells once again as Putin closes his address. The orchestra resumes, this time performing a slow, solemn arrangement of the national anthem. The camera cuts between the Russian flag, the Orthodox cross, and the faces of the audience, the symbols of faith, state, and endurance blending into a single tableau. For a moment, the ceremony seems to transcend politics. It becomes a portrait of a nation asserting its continuity amid global upheaval. As the program proceeds, each speech, whether by clergy or cultural leader, returns to the central theme. That unity, both spiritual and civic, is the foundation of Russia's strength. Abbess Gavrila speaks softly of compassion in service. Archpriest Lemeshonok of the moral responsibility to preserve faith through action. The Grand Mufti emphasizes peace among nations, drawing a standing ovation from the diverse crowd. Putin, now seated, listens with a faint smile, occasionally jotting notes. His body language reflects confidence, the deliberate composure of a leader accustomed to framing national identity as both heritage and policy. As the ceremony concludes, the honorees gather near the dais for a group photograph. The president stands in the center, framed by religious and cultural figures, a visual embodiment of the message the Kremlin seeks to project: stability, tradition, and continuity. The final applause echoes across the marble hall. Outside the Kremlin walls, the grey Moscow sky gives way to a pale afternoon light. On the city streets, flags wave from lampposts, parades move through Red Square. In the state narrative, it is a moment of unity, one where the nation celebrates not only its past, but its resilience in the present. But beneath the ceremony lies a deeper strategy. National Unity Day, revived by the Kremlin in 2005, was designed to replace the Soviet-era November holiday that once commemorated the 1917 revolution. It now symbolizes the expulsion of Polish forces from Moscow in 1612, reframed as an early act of national self-determination. In this shift, historians see the construction of a new national mythology, one that centers Russia's identity not on ideology, but on sovereignty, culture, and historical continuity. For Putin, that mythology serves a purpose. By honoring religious and cultural leaders in the heart of the Kremlin, he is reasserting that faith and patriotism are inseparable pillars of the Russian state. The award ceremony thus becomes more than recognition. It becomes a message of defiance and endurance, especially in times of external pressure. The sound of the anthem rises again as the closing moments unfold. The president stands before the audience one last time. His expression is stoic, his tone resolute. The message he leaves them with, though not spoken again, is clear. Unity is strength, and Russia's future rests on preserving both faith and identity against all odds. As the camera fades out, the final image remains that of Putin, surrounded by Russia's spiritual leaders, the nation's coat of arms gleaming above them, a carefully crafted symbol of power and continuity. Outside, the Kremlin's bells begin to chime. The echo rolls across the Moscow River over the crowds gathered for the Unity Day celebrations. Fireworks begin to crackle in the distance, lighting up the cold evening sky. The voiceover closes on a reflective note. This day, steeped in history and ceremony, is not just a celebration of unity, it is an assertion of sovereignty, a declaration of continuity, and a reminder that in Russia, politics and tradition walk hand in hand. And as the final chords of the anthem fade, the Kremlin's golden halls return to silence, the kind of silence that lingers after history has once again been carefully staged and power once again reaffirmed.